Welcome to Wisdom in Buddhism, a space where we explore the deeper truths of existence through Buddhist wisdom and life's profound lessons. Have you ever felt different, in a way you can't quite explain? Not superior, not special, but as if you're somehow out of sync with the world around you? Maybe you find yourself observing life rather than simply living it. Maybe you question things others accept without hesitation. Or perhaps you carry a deep sense of knowing and awareness that sets you apart, even if you don't fully understand why. Zen and Buddhism teach us that enlightenment is not something given, it is something we awaken to. And sometimes, that awakening begins long before we even realize it. In today's video, we'll explore 3 powerful signs that may indicate you are walking the rare and extraordinary path of those who are chosen. If these signs resonate with you, you might already be further along this journey than you think. Let's begin. To better understand the path of the chosen ones, let's dive deeper into the 3 undeniable signs highlighted in Zen and Buddhist teachings. These signs don't relate to external factors like wealth, fame, or power. Instead, they are internal signals, subtle markers that reveal a soul ready for spiritual awakening, someone destined to transcend the illusions of the world. 1. The first sign, the burden of deep awareness. The first sign that you are on the path of the chosen ones is what I call the burden of deep awareness. You've likely felt it yourself. It's the ability to see what others cannot see. While most people go through their day-to-day lives focused on external things, you're tuned into something much deeper. This awareness is not just about noticing the obvious, it's about recognizing the hidden emotions behind casual words, the sorrow behind forced laughter, or the emptiness masked by social pleasantries. You begin to notice the underlying currents of the world around you, and it can feel as though you're walking through a fog of truths that others simply don't understand. This type of awareness is a double-edged sword. While it may feel like a gift, it often feels heavy, like a weight that drags you down. When you are attuned to the truths others ignore, the world becomes less predictable, less comforting, and at times, more isolating. But this is where the beauty of being chosen lies. This burden is not something to avoid, it's something to embrace. Let me share a story that encapsulates this experience. There was once a traveler, a seeker who wandered far and wide, never truly finding a place where he felt at home. He wasn't driven by a desire for wealth or fame, he simply observed. From a young age, he had an uncanny ability to sense the subtleties in life. He could hear the truth in people's unspoken words, feel the heaviness behind their smiles, and detect the cracks in the facades they put up. This made him stand apart from others. But it also made him feel disconnected. One day, while resting beneath a great tree, the traveler met a wise old monk. The monk looked at him with eyes full of knowing. And after a moment of silent contemplation, he said, "You carry something heavy." The traveler looked around, confused. He had only a small satchel with a few possessions, nothing that seemed particularly heavy. He replied, "But I carry only a bag of food and clothes. I have no other burden." The monk smiled faintly, shaking his head. "That is not the burden I speak of. You carry the weight of seeing too much." The monk continued, "A mind that sees too much is like this cup. It fills beyond its limits. You see the truth behind every word, the sorrow behind every smile, and the illusion behind every belief. And yes, it can feel overwhelming. But remember, this awareness is not a curse. It is a gift. For the first time, the traveler began to see his burden in a new light. What he had once seen as a curse, the overwhelming truth of the world, was actually a profound gift. Most people walked through life unaware of the deeper currents around them. They remained blind to the subtle deceptions, the pain masked by laughter, the silence in the busy noise of the world. But the traveler wasn't like them. He could see beyond what was immediately in front of him. While it often felt like an unbearable weight, it was also the clarity of insight. And with this insight, he could guide others, show them the truths they couldn't see, and open their eyes to a deeper understanding of themselves and the world. You see, awareness brings both wisdom and the pain of impermanence. You start to recognize that everything in this world, every joy, every relationship, every experience is fleeting. And this realization can be hard to bear. But here lies the paradox: the enlightened path does not seek to avoid this pain, it learns to embrace it. Zen teaches us that it's not about escaping suffering, but about learning to navigate it with grace. The traveler understood now that his heightened awareness wasn't about shutting out the pain, it was about carrying it with wisdom. When you learn to embrace this awareness, it no longer overwhelms you. Instead, it empowers you. You see the world for what it truly is, both beautiful and tragic, and you develop the strength to move through it with clarity. This insight allows you to see clearly when others are lost in confusion and illusions. You begin to lead by example, not through words but through the depth of your understanding. And in this way, the burden of awareness transforms from a weight into a tool, a guide that helps you navigate the complexities of life. You stop searching for comfort in the illusions of the world and instead begin to live with integrity and truth. This deep awareness, as exhausting as it may sometimes feel, becomes the gateway to deeper wisdom. As Zen teaches, clarity comes when we are able to truly see not just with our eyes, but with our hearts. And this clarity gives us the power to guide ourselves and others through the shadows of confusion into the light of understanding. To the second sign, the isolation of the awakening mind. The second sign of being one of the chosen ones is the isolation of the awakening mind. This sign is subtle, but incredibly significant. When you begin to awaken to the deeper truths of life, you might start to feel a sense of separation from the world around you. It's not that you choose to withdraw, it's simply that the world, as it is, no longer resonates with you the way it once did. Imagine you're walking through a festival, surrounded by the sounds of music, the joy of laughter, and the excitement of the crowd. On the outside, everything seems vibrant and full of life. Yet, inside, you feel completely alone. You can't lose yourself in the moment because deep down, you've already outgrown that moment. The distractions that once filled you with pleasure now feel hollow, shallow, and almost empty. The boy, noticing the traveler's stillness amidst the joy, asked him, "Why don't you join us? Why do you stand there so still?" The traveler, a faint sadness in his eyes, sighed deeply and replied, "I don't know how." The boy laughed lightly, his carefree voice carrying the wisdom of someone unburdened by deeper thoughts. "It's easy, you just let go. Don't think so much." The traveler smiled weakly, his mind heavy with realization. The truth is, it wasn't so simple. The moment he was meant to join was no longer one he could simply step into. The illusion of fleeting joy, the laughter, the music, the distraction, it all felt distant. Like a child's play, a game, not something he could participate in anymore. He had crossed a threshold. His mind was no longer in sync with the superficial pleasures that once filled him with delight. The deeper truths he had begun to see could no longer allow him to be entertained by illusions. That night, weary and full of questions, the traveler returned to the monk. He asked him, "Why do I always feel alone, even when I'm surrounded by people? Why does everything feel so distant, even when the world is so vibrant?" The monk chuckled, a wise, knowing smile tugging at the corners of his lips. He motioned for the traveler to sit beside him, under the still sky. After a moment, the monk spoke. "Do you see the moon?" the monk asked. "It is always in the sky, but it never touches the earth. It illuminates everything, but it remains distant, untouched. It reaches everyone, but it is alone." The traveler looked up at the moon, understanding dawning on him. The monk's words were simple, but profound. In that moment, the traveler understood. His sense of isolation wasn't a curse, as he had once thought. It wasn't that he was somehow less than others or that there was something wrong with him. It was simply the natural consequence of his awakening. The more you begin to see beyond the surface of things, the fewer people will truly understand you. You begin to recognize the truth where others are still lost in the illusions they build for themselves. And this can create a profound sense of loneliness. But this isolation, the monk explained, is not something to fear. It's a time of preparation, a necessary phase in the journey toward deeper wisdom. As you walk the path of awakening, you'll eventually find others who share your journey, kindred souls who have also embraced the truth. But in the beginning, you must learn to stand alone. You must learn to find strength in solitude, to become comfortable with your own company. And to understand that solitude is not the same as loneliness. The more you walk this path, the more you will understand that the sense of isolation is not permanent. It's a period of internal growth. The world around you may seem filled with distractions, but your soul is finding clarity, finding its center. It's not that you're disconnected from life, it's that you've simply moved beyond the distractions that once defined it. And this solitude, as difficult as it may seem in the beginning, is a sacred space. It's in this space that you can cultivate the wisdom needed to move forward. Eventually, the loneliness will fade, and you will be ready to meet the world with a deeper understanding. But first, you must be able to stand alone. In the silence of your solitude, you will discover the deepest truths about yourself. And with that, the world will slowly reveal its truths to you as well. 3. The third sign, the unshakable pull toward purpose. The third and final sign of the chosen ones is the unshakable pull toward purpose. This is the kind of feeling that stirs deep within your soul, a restless, relentless urge that no matter how much the world tries to keep you comfortable, you simply cannot ignore. You may try to settle, to fit into the rhythm of everyday life, but something inside you keeps tugging at you, calling you to a higher place. It's the sense that you are meant for something greater than simply existing. As the traveler walked, days turning into weeks, he began to feel an inner fire rising within him. It wasn't just the burning desire for answers, but an urgent pull, a sense that he was moving towards something that had been waiting for him. He didn't know exactly what that something was, but he could no longer ignore the constant tug on his spirit. The traveler would stop and listen to the winds, to the rustling of the leaves, hoping for some clarity. But there was only the persistent feeling that he was not yet where he was meant to be. The familiar comfort of his old ways, the places and people he'd once known, now seemed distant, unimportant. This inner call was growing louder, and he could no longer deny it. The traveler, desperate for answers, knelt before the monk. His voice trembling with uncertainty, "I feel something pulling me, but I don't know what it is. I feel restless, as if I am meant to do something greater, but I cannot see it. What should I do?" The monk, ever serene, smiled gently. "Ah, you are beginning to hear the call," he said. "This is the third sign. You are being pulled towards something greater than yourself. It is time for you to choose your path." The traveler stood silent, absorbing the monk's words. There was no clear path, no obvious destination ahead. But for the first time, the traveler felt a deep understanding. The feeling of unease he had been carrying was not a curse, it was a sign of awakening. The restless feeling in his chest wasn't something to fight against, it was his deeper purpose calling to him, reminding him that he was meant for more. The monk continued, "You are not meant to remain still. That discomfort, that stirring deep within you, is not a burden, it is the awakening of your true calling. The world may try to keep you in comfort, to lull you into the rhythms of the ordinary. But you are being called to evolve, to grow and contribute to something that goes beyond your own self. Purpose," the monk explained, "doesn't always come as a loud, thunderous declaration. It's often a soft whisper, a quiet knowing deep within that you can feel but cannot yet fully understand. For the chosen ones, this calling grows over time, becoming louder, more undeniable. The more you walk the path of awakening, the more you feel this pull to something greater. And while the road ahead may be shrouded in uncertainty, the first step is always the hardest, because it requires you to trust that the next step will appear. The journey toward purpose is not about chasing after it, but rather about listening to your inner voice and taking action, even when the way forward is unclear. The traveler realized that the more he tried to ignore this inner pull, the more he would feel lost. The more he resisted it, the more restless and disconnected he became. But when he finally allowed himself to follow the call despite the uncertainty, he felt the beginning of clarity. Each step he took, even in the midst of doubt, brought him closer to a truth he hadn't yet fully understood. It wasn't that the path became easier, but that it became clearer. With every step, the pieces of his purpose began to fall into place. The call to evolve, to serve something greater than himself, would not be ignored any longer. Purpose is not something that can be found by simply seeking it out in the world. It is already within you, quietly waiting for you to listen. The moment you begin to follow that call, even in the face of uncertainty, you'll start to see the path unfold before you. Trusting the process is the first step toward aligning with your true calling. The path of the chosen one is not always an easy one. It's not always filled with joy, comfort, or certainty, but it is always meaningful. These three signs: the burden of deep awareness, the isolation of the awakening mind, and the pull toward purpose, are not obstacles to fear. No, they are guiding lights, gently illuminating the way toward a deeper, more profound life. If you've recognized any of these signs within yourself, take comfort in knowing that you are not alone. The journey may feel lonely at times, but you're walking a path of incredible transformation. There is purpose in every step you take, even in the moments of doubt and isolation. Keep moving forward, trust the process, and you will eventually find others who walk the same path with you. We are all connected by this shared awakening. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you found these insights helpful and inspiring, I invite you to subscribe to Wisdom in Buddhism, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future videos. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how these signs resonate with you, and what you'd like to explore next. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. Embrace the signs, trust the process, and keep walking the path of awareness, purpose, and transformation. There is so much more ahead, and you are exactly where you need to be. I'll see you in the next video.